Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada, 2.16 today. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayor api drushtontas tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi. It's a very poetic verse Krishna is using here. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na abhavaha vidyate sataha. What does it mean? Na asataha vidyate. For bhava or for asataha, or that which is not existing, which is unreal, which is illusion. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha. So for that asat, there is no bhava. Bhava means there is no substantiality. There is no endurance for that asat. And for sat, the second line, the last word, sataha, for sataha, na abhavaha vidyate. There is no cessation. Abhavaha means stops to exist, or it changes in quality. Non-existent. So, for the sat, there is nothing like changing in quality. Na abhava. And for asat, there is no bhava. So the two words are interchanged. So it is basically saying, for spirit soul, there is no stoppage of existence. And for the material body, there is no existence, or there is no endurance of the existence. So that is what it means, sat and asat. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha, na abhavaha vidyate sataha. And ubhayor api drushtontas. Ubhayo means both of them. Both this sat and asat have been properly studied and have concluded. Drushtontaha, until the end of conclusion they have studied. Drushtontaha, and of them, and this who have studied this, tattvadarshibhihi, the seers of knowledge, the seers of truth. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport, both the personalists and the impersonalists, they agree on this point. Even though they may disagree on details, but one thing that they agree is, for the soul, there is no stoppage of existence. There is no cessation of existence. And for the body, there is no proper existence. There is no endurance of its existence. In fact, the impersonalists say that the body is just an illusion. Whereas the personalists say that the body is not illusion, it is temporary. Either way, this statement holds good. Ubhayorapi drushtontas tvanayos tattva darshibhihi. So Krishna, in the previous verse, he gave the eligibility for liberation, which is to not get distressed or agitated and be tolerant against the dualities of material nature. Now, he explains two natures in this verse. He is introducing two natures, material nature and the spiritual nature. See, this second chapter is titled as the contents of the Gita summarized. So you will find all the various pieces of knowledge that Krishna mentions throughout Bhagavad Gita, you will find it in a condensed form, in a summary form. So this actual two natures that Krishna explained here, Sat and Asat he calls, it is also explained in the 7th chapter in detail. Bhumirapo analo vayu kham mano buddhi ahankaram. What is that verse? Ahankara iti yamme.
Ahankara vimodatma kattaham iti.
No. Ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rashtada. So there is material nature and there is spiritual nature, which is aparayam itastvanyam prakritim vidhime param. Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho. So these two natures come from the Supreme Lord, from His energy. He is the energetic and these two are energies. But there is difference in the energy. Not that all energies are the same. One is His superior energy, the living entities, Paraprakriti. And then there is His inferior energy, the material energy, which is Aparaprakriti. So Sat and Asat. So Krishna is introducing these two natures here. Why? Because the point Krishna is mentioning to Arjuna here is that the body will die one day. This Asat will cease to exist. There is no existence of the Asat. And that is because the body belongs to material nature. Material nature means constantly changing. There is 6 transformations the material nature undergoes. It comes into existence, it grows, it produces byproducts, it stays for some time, it dwindles, and gradually it vanishes. So that is the nature of the material energy. And by mentioning this, Krishna is again stressing the fact that, O Arjuna, there is no cause for your lamentation, because anybody who accepts this material energy, the body made of material energy, is bound to die. So that is the point. And along with it, Krishna is also introducing the spiritual nature. So far, Krishna has used different words to explain that spirit soul. Here he is using the word Sat, Sataha. In the previous verses, he has used the word Dehinaha, Dehinosmin Yadha Dehe Kaumaram Yavanam Jara. And in the next verses also he will use the words Sharirinaha, one who possesses the body. So these are the words used. Dehinaha, Sharirinaha, Sat. These are the various words used. So because Krishna is developing the concept, he is just now getting into the basics of spiritual knowledge. So now he gave 2 natures. And so why is the body not existing? Because the first statement is Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na asataha vidyate bhavaha. For the body, there is no bhava, there is no existence, or there is no endurance. Why it is said that the body is not existing or it does not endure? Because Prabhupada explains in the purport, even according to modern science, every moment the body is changing, because every moment there are number of cells dying in the body. The bodily constitution is changing. We are changing every moment. We cannot say that we remain same from one moment to the other. So there is nothing like one entity that exists like that constantly. Our material body cannot exist as one piece constantly. Unlike a spirit soul, which always exists without change. And these properties will be explained in the next verses. More description will come later about the spirit soul. How it is changeless. Nityaha sarvagatah sthanur achaloyam sanatanaha. Is eternally the same. Whereas that thing cannot be said for the body, even scientifically. The body is always changing. So that is the reason why it is said the body does not endure, whereas the spirit soul endures. O Arjuna, you should not bother about the body. You should be concerned only about the spirit soul and be on the spiritual platform and fight. So that is the message. And coming to the spiritual platform, we all are spirit souls originally. We are covered with this body. And when we realize that we are spirit souls and when we come to the spiritual platform, we become blissful. Anandamayo Bhyasat. One of our predecessor spiritual masters, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he lived for a long time, more than 100 years, probably 140, 150 years. And during the last stages of his manifest pastimes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was doing the work of finding the proper birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, Mayapur. Because there was so much of confusion and many people were claiming that this is the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is the birthplace, for their own profit, so it can attract visitors. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, somehow or other, he figures out that place. And to confirm that fact, he brings Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who is renowned as Vaishnava Sarvabhauma in those days, and even now. The pranam mantra for Jagannath Das Babaji is Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Jagannathaya Te Namaha. So he brings Jagannath Das Babaji. He could not even walk at that time. He used to be carried in a basket by his disciple. And they bring Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells him that this is the place that he thinks he has proof, and he explains why he thinks this is the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj gets down from the basket. He sees with his divine vision the eternal Harinam Sankirtan is going on there in that place. Eternally. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. There is Tulsi there. There is all kinds of spiritual atmosphere reverberating in that place. And he becomes ecstatic and he starts dancing in ecstasy. Just imagine for apparently old man who is unable to walk, who was to be carried, and then he gets all the energy and he starts dancing. This shows that the body is run by the spirit, not otherwise. Spirit doesn't get run by the body. Body is run by the spirit. If you have the spirit, if you are situated on the spiritual platform, you can be the most energetic, irrespective of your bodily situation. That's why Prabhupada, even though materially he was old, but spiritually he was always active. Many disciples, if you talk to them, who served Prabhupada personally, they would say that if you were a secretary of Prabhupada, every month they had to change the secretaries because they were unable to cope up with the pace of Prabhupada. They were falling sick and they were having less rest. Prabhupada was always active and always awake practically, translating and walking, touring, lecturing, dictating. So many things were happening. So this shows that the spirit soul is the most important thing in the body. But unfortunately, the modern science cannot scientifically prove, because they cannot scientifically prove the existence of the spirit soul, they deny the existence of the spirit soul. So here Krishna is saying the body is there, but it is asat and there is no bhava for that. And so the scientific knowledge can only get us to this asat or the material elements. What is the source of our knowledge? Our knowledge source is Shabda Praman. Whatever Krishna explains, we take it. Because by our senses, mundane senses, we cannot understand the true knowledge. When the Vedas say, the Vedanta Sutra says, Janmadhyasya yataha, in the purport Prabhupada is mentioning, the Vedanta Sutra talks about Janmadhyasya yataha. Everything is emanating from one person. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. All these material and spiritual natures are coming from him. How can we prove it? So there are three kinds of ways of understanding knowledge. One is Pratyaksha, Anumana and Shabda Praman. Pratyaksha means you see to believe it, or you prove it with your experiment. With your senses you perceive and then you prove it. That is pratyaksha. And with that pratyaksha you cannot go beyond material elements, because only material elements can you perceive. You cannot even touch the subtle platform. Mind, intelligence and false ego. What to speak of going to spiritual platform. And Anumana also is like that. Pratyaksha is seeing is believing. Anumana is you infer based on evidence. Oh, it must be like this. By your logical conclusion. Of course, we know that that is also not foolproof. You can be mistaken. And the best form of understanding knowledge is Shabda Pramana. Hearing from authority. So here Krishna is the authority. The Vedic knowledge is the authority, which mentions that there are these two kinds of natures. Of course, for people coming from Vedic background, our Indian background, it is very easy to understand. Yeah, what is there? There is Atma, there is soul, there is reincarnation, there is karma. We transmigrate to different bodies. But if you were to explain this to a person born and brought up in Western culture with the orientation of scientific orientation, they cannot accept it very easily. On what basis can you say that there is spirit soul? Actually, there had been experiments to prove the existence of something beyond bodily existence. To prove that we are not just the body, we are something else. Dr. I think William Penfield is his last name. He is a very great neurologist. He has done decades of experiments and he has proved that brain is not the actual reason why we act in a particular way. According to modern science, the popular understanding is all the signals are coming from the brain, which is true, but what they don't know is that there is a controller beyond the brain. There is an entity who is separate from the brain, who is ordering the brain to send signals to various parts of the body to act in various ways. So he has demonstrated with an experiment where he has manipulated using certain neurons in the brain. He's activated some portions of the brain to move a person's hands without even the person's knowledge. And when he asked that person, did you move the hand? The person said, no, I didn't say my hand to move, but the hand automatically moved. That means it is possible to control the brain from an external, entity point of view. And then you can, it is just like brain is like a device. Just like you have printer. You can control the printer and print whatever you want. It is not that the printer is autonomous. So similarly, there is an entity existing beyond this material nature, and it has been proven also for people who are sincere in their hearts. They can take these results of these experiments, and this is what is the point is, even after you do all the experiments, you will come to the same knowledge mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. So why not take from the beginning? So when you prove scientifically also, you will come to the same knowledge, same understanding. So if you take it from Shabda Praman, it will be much more useful. If you go on experiment, even for material knowledge, you need to have faith. Like when you have a hunch, okay, this must be working like this, let me prove it. That means you have a faith that this must be like this. Like I was giving the example of Newton. When he found that the apple fell, he had a hunch that there must be some laws of physics working like this. So there was no scientific evidence. He had a faith that there were certain laws and he had to go about pushing on that faith and then eventually prove it. Similarly, we should have faith that, okay, what Krishna says logically is true. Because there has to be an entity beyond the body. Otherwise, when somebody dies, the same body is existing, But something is missing. But consciousness is missing. It's due to because of something beyond this body. We start off with faith, and gradually, when we get to a stage, it is, people say that you prove existence of soul. We can prove the existence of soul provided they have proper tools to understand our proof. Just like a kid coming and saying he's in the kindergarten or first grade, he only knows additions and positive numbers, and you come and say that there is something called negative numbers also, or there is something called advanced calculus, and the kid will say, no, you prove me by my addition only. You have to prove me. I only know additions. I only know positive numbers. Then with this, you prove me. And that is laughable, isn't it? The child has to grow gradually and has to understand advanced concepts before he can even comprehend to understand negative numbers, advanced calculus, to understand the movement of whatever objects, speed, every split second. So, it is possible to understand the spirit soul when we become advanced. When Krishna reveals in our heart. Even materially also it has to be revealed in the heart, no? Say, for example, Newton, he was not able to prove his theory with the existing mathematics at that time in 17th century when he came up with the law of gravitation. He was not able to prove it scientifically, mathematically. So he had to invent something called calculus. That's how calculus came into existence. So calculus was introduced to prove that whatever he was proposing is correct. Otherwise, there was no way that they could verify it, because he figured out that every moment, the gravitation, in order to explain the path of an object, at every moment, the different mechanics were involved, and it was not just possible to explain it using just the classical mathematics existing at that time. So, because Newton found that the speed of the object increases every split second, and no current mathematics at that time was able to describe. So, that's how he was introducing the calculus. So, it is possible for one to understand the spirit soul, but one has to develop in knowledge. And that is the way of Krishna consciousness or devotional service, by which one gathers sufficient tools to experience, to experiment and realize that there is existence of the soul. And all this knowledge becomes revealed in the heart. So one cannot dismiss it on its face and say that, okay, this is all because of there is no existence, because we cannot prove it with the existing materialistic knowledge. Any other questions, comments? So we were supposed to talk about Brahma Samhita. So Brahma Samhita is the Samhita means basically collection of prayers. So because it is a collection of prayers recited by Brahma, it is called Brahma Samhita. So when Brahma was born in the beginning of creation, he had no clue what to do. So he was meditating on the Lord. He was performing austerities. And after severe austerities and contemplation and meditation, the Supreme Lord revealed in his heart the wisdom. And he has revealed the spiritual world also. So Brahma was able to visualize the Supreme Lord's Goloka. And he also visualized his position as a maidservant of the Lord. But even though the detailed envisioning did not take place, but the Lord revealed in him the wonderful spiritual world and different aspects of the absolute truth in the vision. So Prabhupada also explains in Chaitanya Charitamrita how this Brahma Samhita is important. So when Brahma compiled it and it got passed down, but eventually the wisdom got lost, even though it was scribed down in a written format. Eventually it got lost. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was touring South India, he acquired this Brahma Samhita, just the 5th chapter, not everything. Just the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita, he found it in the Adikeshava temple. And he brought it back and he made multiple copies. He had his disciples make multiple copies. And he recommended devotees to chant and enter into the understanding and glorify the Supreme Lord in the same way that Brahma has glorified. So Prabhupada mentions that this chapter of Brahma Samhita presents various methods of devotional service, and it contains topics of the soul, super soul, fruitive activity, Vishnu incarnations, expansions, Golaka Vrindavan, about demigods situation, like who is Ganesha, Durga, Shiva, Brahma himself, what is sun, what are how the universe is created, how Vishnu is in Yoga Nidra, breathes out the universe, various incarnations of the Lord, various expansions like Ramachandra, various kinds of prayers glorifying the Lord, how the demigods derive their power. So all these wonderful subjects are conclusively explained in a nutshell in the Brahma Samhita. So Brahma Samhita becomes a very important prayer for the glorification of the Lord and to understand the various aspects of the absolute truth. So it was actually translated and commented by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhupada didn't want to touch whatever Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given. So Prabhupada said, you publish the book as it is, given by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. But Prabhupada lectured many times on Brahma Samhita and he quoted extensively from Brahma Samhita to prove the particular philosophical points. So any other questions on that?